morning. This is Angela with today's A Cup of Tea. Something I don't talk about a lot because it's part of my background, but not always completely relevant with the stuff that I do today, is that I spent more than 7 years taking martial arts and focused most of the time on Taekwondo. I took several other disciplines though as well. And at the tail end of when I was doing the Taekwondo, as a second degree black belt, I actually helped to teach and taught classes at the school that I attended. And one of the first things that was drilled into my head, as well as that I would drill into others before they ever put on a belt, was that it was so important to understand that martial arts is an inner discipline. It's about finding your strength and your core within yourself to gain self-confidence and balance in your life. And one of the last things you ever use martial arts for is really to fight or harm somebody else. And that the only time you ever use it is when you actually have a life or death situation and you can't walk away from it and there's nothing else you can do. It's like your last resort. That is the first thing we would teach students, and the first thing I got taught before a belt is ever put on. And it's the same thing in terms of spirituality and finding your spiritual path and exploring your intuition and your intuitive skills as we go through these changing times. This topic of conversation has come up like no less than half a dozen times in just the past week, and I really thought I was going to cover something else today, but came in loud and clear that this is a really, really important topic to discuss. So when we first start trying to tune in, we try to get answers, and we're looking to make that connection in with our higher self and get the true answers past the ego and quiet the chatter and everything else. And then we start tapping into the oneness and to our divinity within us, which also then connects us to the divinity without us, which sounds sort of funny, but it's within and without, it's above and below. And the first thing that happens is it's so fun. It is such a playground. It really is. Once I got a hold of all the stuff, because I sort of fell open like a book, as I've discussed, and had all these things, and once I stopped being scared of it and started understanding it and just understanding how to funnel it and channel it and focus the energy and focus the abilities that we all have. Once I realized that I could do that, then it was like I was in a playground, and I was like, oh, this is fun, and what else can I learn, and what else can I learn how to do? And I'm still like that today, but I mean really a lot in the beginning. The first thing I learned, and the first thing I was able to translate over from martial arts, is discernment, and being discerning about not only the work that I'm doing, with myself, but also how it is utilized in terms of interacting with other people. So, again, this work is just like martial arts. It is inner discipline. It is inner growth, inner development, and tapping into our inner divinity. And in doing that, everything else will fall into place around us. And it does also help, like in martial arts, your self-confidence. It helps your place and your balance in the world. And the first thing we want to do, though, and say we start tapping into our higher selves, then we start tapping it, being able to trust those answers that we get. We start understanding that we are one, and so therefore we are all connected, and you can utilize that connection in so many ways, for the better and for the worse. The first thing we want to do, though, is really, a lot of times is we want to help other people because we're so excited that we can help ourselves, and now we can help other people. And sometimes somewhere along the path there, one will lose that discernment of allowing everyone to have their individual path and allowing everybody to choose the path that they're taking. Because, I've had many situations where I've made an acquaintance that was doing the same kind of work I'm doing, and wow, they were doing a whole bunch of what you call psychic work or intuitive work and stuff like that, and would automatically, without asking me, without asking my permission, would automatically start trying to communicate with my guides, start trying to look into me for some purpose or another. It was amazing to me how many people in that world, even those who'd been in there for quite a while, would do that automatically without asking my permission. Well, that's an infringement on my personal journey. That's an infringement on my personal space, because we are all one, but we are also individuals. And doing this right now is our own, as I've said a zillion times, our own individual spiritual journey. We are all we're pulling together and assimilating all of our individual experiences to get to the top of that mountain of enlightenment. And it's also very individual, and there's a zillion different ways to get there. And as I've said, it's all different flavors of ice cream. It's all the right way. So the very basic idea of getting permission before you ever do any work or make any assumptions with anyone else is very, very, very important. And and I'm not saying it's ill-intentioned. It very rarely truly is. It typically is from love, and it's from excitement, and oh, look what I can do. And yeah, there is a little bit of ego in there going, oh, look what I can do this. And I can do this for you, and I love being able to do this for you, and that's awesome. But again, the key is the discernment part. I had a really interesting conversation. One of the open spiritual discussion groups that I run, we got into this conversation where there was a woman talking about her brother, and her brother's got a chronic, rare sickness, and he's become very grumpy and not very sociable and not very connected to others, lives far away. And so, they used to talk on the phone, and now he's like, well, I'd rather just email. And they don't have the best relationship, but they get along okay for a while. And so she asked the group, well, how do I feel so much compassion for him and so much love for him. What can I do to help him? So one of the people in the group spoke up and said, well, it's his choice. His path is his choice. And if he doesn't ask for help, if he doesn't want help, then why do you think you have to give it to him? And, and it tends to be that way for people we're close to and people we love. And we want to fix it. We want them to be better. We want them to change. If they get sick, we want them to get better. But we forget that we all have this individual journey in our lives. And so this wasn't even really talking about so much, intuitive or psychic abilities. This was simply talking about a connection with a sibling. So, in essence, we all agreed the best thing to do would be to just send his higher self unconditional love. Just douse him with unconditional love several times a day. You never have to talk to him. And, his higher self can decide whether or not he'll accept it. Does this fit our path in the highest and best way? And the higher self can do that without having ego interference. Excuse me. So that's something to really be, this is like kindergarten. It's almost like before you even start on this, before you really get deeply into it, or even if you're in the beginning, just remember discernment is truly key. It's really funny when people start, that I haven't spoken to for a while, who've known me, but they haven't spoken to me for a while, and they know that I've changed into doing what I do. First, right away, I can feel it in their body language. I don't even have to listen to their thought. I can feel it in their body languages. Oh my God, can she read my mind? Seriously, that's the first thing. People sort of get a little bit uncomfortable because you know what? You're not here, at a carnival and wanting to get your palm read. You come in just one-on-one relationship that we have in any kind of way. And, I have no interest in reading people's minds. We can all read each other's minds if we really truly connect into the oneness. And we can ask Creator to give us what's on that person's mind. We can listen ourselves. There's so many ways. But I have no interest in doing that because of personal discernment, of the fact that I respect the fact that I have my space and you have yours. You have your path and I have mine. And if you ask me for help, if you ask me to give you guidance or help you along the way, that's one thing. But I'm not going to sit there and try to, listen to it's like walking in on a conversation. It's like, do I really want to sit in a coffee shop and listen to who's sitting next to me? Really not. Sometimes, and so, you have a lot of this discomfort because of that. Because people always think psychics and, oh, they can read your mind and all that kind of stuff. We're all that way. Again, we're coming back into this remembrance of being able to do all that. And it's really fun. But again, I'm going to just come back to this. Discernment is key. Now, if you get a message and something comes into you about someone that is really that you get this real strong pull to tell them, just tell it to them without filter and without opinion, and say, I got this message for you, or this came to me in a dream, or this came to me somehow. This is what I got for you, and I don't understand it. This is totally for you, and then walk away from it. Don't try to put your opinion on it. Don't try to put filters on it. That's really where a lot of angst comes up when you have more than one person working, when you have two people or more working together. So on that, I'm going to let you go. There's a lot to think about here, and really it's not just in the psychic world, it's day-to-day life. So have a great day. We'll talk to you Thursday. This is Angela with a Cup of Tea.